What's up, guys? Welcome back to Captivated. I've got to finish this first. Alright, let's try that again. Welcome back to... If you tuned in last week, you saw that I told my birth story of having Madeline, and so I thought it was only right that I now share my birth story of having Luca. 3 months ago, we welcomed Luca into our family and our home and our hearts. And so before I forget all the details, I have to tell you guys about having Luca because it was totally different than when I had Maddie. The timing actually ended up being very similar, but just the entire experience was super crazy and different. Let's start at the beginning. So we didn't know gender. Her due date was July 11th, so 7/11. I had a 7/11 themed sprinkle, and I was really hoping that she might arrive, or I guess the baby, because I didn't know gender, might arrive on 7/11 because it's just like a lucky day, and there's a Beyonce song named 7/11, so I'm a big Beyonce fan. Drop it down low to the floor. Bring it up, tap and roll. And so I was just like, okay, 7/11, 7/11, 7/11, that's the date. Like leading up to my labor, I didn't have any signs of labor. Like I never lost a mucus plug that I know of. I didn't have a bloody show. I didn't have like contractions leading up to my labor contractions. At least I didn't think so. One of the biggest differences between my labor with Maddie and my labor with Luca was that my contractions with Maddie were in my back. So I just did not know what to expect the second time around. So on Monday, July 8th, I put Maddie down and then I went to bed a couple hours later, like around 11 o'clock. It didn't last very long. I woke up at 1 a.m. with some like tightening in my stomach. This feels like what I would have imagined a contraction to feel like before having Maddie, but it feels very different than my contractions with Maddie. They were pretty mild. I was just laying in bed, Seth and Maddie were sleeping in bed, and I was just breathing through them. From then on, I was up. So 1 a.m. up. I kept getting up to go to the bathroom, like I had to pee a lot, but the contractions weren't very intense, and like I said, I hadn't had any other big signs of labor, so I didn't want to wake anybody up. I was just kind of like, okay, let me just see how this goes. At about 4:30, almost 5 o'clock, I decided to wake Cedric up because then I'm fairly convinced that these are contractions. They're about 8 minutes apart on average. So I wanted to get him up because everyone had warned me that like your second baby comes faster, like be ready to go. So I woke Cedric up. I got in the shower just because I knew that it was going to be a long day. Cedric got everything like packed up, ready to go, and I said I wanted to go over to my mom's house because we have Maddie and I didn't want to be like rushing to the hospital and having to like drop her off and then go to the hospital because I was really anxious about the second baby coming so fast. So at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, we all pile into the car and we drive over to my mom's house. And I kind of like prep them too, like I believe I'm in labor, so we're coming over with Maddie. Again, contractions felt completely different. It really was that like true like cramping of my stomach. I didn't have any other big like signs of this, hey, labor. I was just going off of like my feeling. So we got to my mom's house, and then at about 7, I called into my clinic to say, hey, I think I'm in labor. Would you ask the doctor on call when she wants me to go to the hospital? Because I knew 2 weeks prior at my appointment, they checked me and my cervix was effaced and I was a centimeter dilated. So I was expecting that the doctor would want me to go in sooner than what I did with Maddie. Like I waited with Maddie for the contractions to be 4 minutes apart, lasting for a minute for at least an hour. But with this one, I just didn't know like, when do I go? So I called the clinic and they took a message and passed it on to the on-call doctor. And then I didn't hear anything, and my contractions were getting more intense and they were lasting longer and they were getting closer together. So then at about 8, I called back into the doctor's office, and the nurse told me, you can head in whenever you are ready. Like, you can go now.
All right, guys, so we're out for our second walk. We got food.
What, French fry?
It's just completely insane.
Don't put it back in there.
And it is, what, like 9 o'clock now?
Yeah, 8:45.
It's 8:45, and I think we're about to probably head to the hospital because Charlotte is feeling a lot of pelvic pressure. It's really getting real.
So I started to like prep mentally and like get everything ready to go to the hospital. But as I was doing this, everything seemed to like just slow down. The contractions weren't as intense. They were all over the place. They weren't consistent in duration or intensity or anything. It's about 10:30. We're still at my mom's house. It feels like things have kind of slowed down almost. Like my contractions were seeming more regular earlier, and now they've just been pretty inconsistent. So it's like they're still, a lot of them are still like intense, but they're just not getting closer together. So I don't really know. I don't know what's going on. I didn't want to go to the hospital and get sent home, so I'm like said, I don't know if we should go now. Like now I'm just confused. It didn't feel like the contractions were progressing toward delivery. I was so unsure of like what is going on. Am I really in labor? I would lay down at my mom's to try to get some rest, and then I would wake up with a really intense contraction. But again, they were all over the place. Like, okay, that one lasted for 30 seconds. Okay, now that one's lasting a minute. Now that one's 15 minutes apart, but that one's only 3. It was just all over the place. Ultimately, I was supposed to go into the doctor the next day for my like regular prenatal appointment, and I called in and they had an opening to go into the clinic. So we go into the clinic at 11:30, and I kid you not, I like have a contraction walking into the clinic.
Are you having one?
Yeah. But then the entire time we're there for like 30 minutes, nothing. I don't feel anything. Like I'm just talking with the doctor like everything's totally normal.
No vaginal bleeding. There's baby. Sounds great. 145. Perfect. Okay. So they were, you said about 8 minutes apart, would you say?
Yeah. The doctor I saw wasn't my normal doctor. She's like, well, let's check your cervix and see where you're at. So she checked my cervix and I'm at 4 centimeters dilated already, but I'm not having contractions at that point. And so she's like, I think it's false labor. I don't think you're progressing toward delivery. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like false labor, like what the heck? I was having these really intense contractions. It was just really frustrating for me because I was like, how long is this going to go on for? She is like, let me talk with your doctor and let's come up with a plan of what we want to do. At this point, it's July 9th. My doctor is out of the office today. She is on Wednesday, she's in clinic, and she's on 24-hour on call on Thursday. So ideally, the doctor's office would prefer that I deliver with my doctor, which was also my preference. But today, July 9th, she's out. The doctor's like, I don't want to strip your membranes and have things like go really fast and then you end up delivering today. So instead, what we're proposing is that, you know, you just go home, rest, hope to deliver either on Wednesday, or we can set up an induction time for you to come in on Thursday. That way you know your doctor will deliver the baby. My body's moving in the right direction, it's just not quite there yet. We ended up setting an induction time for Thursday, July 11th. I was gonna go to the hospital at like 7 a.m. and they would induce me, and then I would have the baby with my doctor that day. And on the way home, Cedric and I decide to stop for food, and so we go into this burger restaurant, Lowbrow, and we sit down and I start having these super intense contractions. And so we like ordered our food, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't do this, like it's super painful. And so we end up being like, oh, can you just bag that up? We're gonna take it home. So we take the food home, and I've got this false labor playing in my head. And so I'm like, okay, said, like, since the baby's not coming, I'm gonna go rest, I'm gonna go sleep, because I've been up all night at this point, and now it's like 1 p.m. and I woke up at 1 a.m. and so I was really tired. I don't even eat my burger because I feel like crap. He like hops on the game and is playing video games, and I go in our room and I lay down. But as soon as I lay down, I keep waking up out of my sleep like every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes or so with these super intense contractions. And finally I come out like totally feeling like very like hopeless and defeated. And I'm like, said, like, I know that she said that this is false labor, but this hurts. Like, this feels like I'm in labor. And if these contractions continue like this, I want to go to the hospital. I knew I was already 4 centimeters. I knew that Thursday, 2 days from now, I would be induced. So my thought was, worst case, I go to the hospital, I'm at 4 centimeters, and they give me Pitocin to like induce labor, which is what they would do on Thursday anyway. And I was just feeling so desperate at that point because I was in so much pain that I was like, I can't wait 2 more days and be in this start and stop pain for that long. Like, I want to just go to the hospital. So we ended up waiting until almost 4 o'clock, and I was having these contractions again, and they were intense.
You feel another one coming?
I just feel like pressure. It just doesn't feel nice.
Hmm?
It just doesn't feel good. Lord. Okay. Just trying to rest, and then like the contractions just pick back up.
Yeah.
And I just am really tired because I've been up all night.
You got this. Ready?
So Sed's like, yeah, let's go. And at this point, Maddie's already at my mom's. It's just me and Sed. And so we hop in our car, and I let my family know, like, hey, we're going to the hospital, but like, don't come yet because, you know, they say I'm not in labor. So when we get there, we'll let you know. Like, it feels like real labor. So as we're driving, I'm having like these super intense contractions in the car, and I'm getting pissed. I'm like, get me to the hospital. It's bumpy. It's making everything worse. And like Sed's like, we're almost there. And I'm like, no, like, okay, that doesn't do anything for me right now. I need like a cup or something. Hand me a cup. Like, it was just a very intense car ride. The hospital is only maybe 15 minutes from our house, maybe. And like that 10-minute drive, I'm like, get me to the hospital. Before we even get to the hospital, I'm like, I am getting an epidural, because I was so tired at this point because I hadn't slept at all, and I didn't know how long I was gonna be in labor from then on, because right, like they said, you're not in labor. I need to get out of here. Oh my God. So we parked the car, and I'm trying to walk and down the hallway, and like where you have to park and where you check in for the maternal assessment ward are like, it's a walk. So I'm like walking and then I'm stopping. I got my hands on my knees and I'm swaying and I'm pissed off because this crap hurts and I don't even know if I'm really in labor at this point, right? Because I like haven't had a bloody show. I never lost my mucus plug. The doctor says it's false labor, but boy, this freaking hurts. So we finally get to maternal assessment. They check me in and I'm like, the entire time I'm like, when am I getting in a room? When am I getting in a room? This junk hurts. So I get into the maternal assessment and they're like, well, you know, they're asking all the questions, they're getting me checked in. And then they check me and she's like, you're at a 7. You're 7 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, I freaking knew this wasn't false labor. Like, I knew it. And she's like, can you walk? Do you feel like you can walk to the delivery room? And I was like, yeah. I feel like I can do it. And then boom, huge contraction. And she's like, no, like we're pushing you in the bed up there. So they like push me in the bed from the maternal assessment room up to my delivery room. And my nurse is there. She's like getting everything checked in. And I'm like, hey, I want an epidural. And she's like, okay, like let's see if we can get it in time, because at this point I'm already 7+ centimeters. She's like calling the anesthesiologist, trying to get him in my room in time. And I'm like, where is this dude at? Because I knew if I went much longer, it would be past the point of no return and there would be no opportunity for an epidural. So the epidural was something that I was feeling like conflicted about. With Maddie, I got an epidural after laboring in the hospital for about 4 hours. And when I got the epidural, it didn't work. So I got the epidural and then I was stuck in the bed, but I was like writhing in pain. So there was no relief. And then Maddie's heart rate dropped too low, too long. Going into this labor, I was like, I'm gonna see again. Like I'm gonna go natural as long as possible. And then if I want an epidural, I'm gonna get epidural. But at this point, like I just walk into the hospital and I'm like, I want an epidural. And they're like, okay, we're gonna try our best to get you one, but you're kind of far along. Praise baby Jesus. The anesthesiologist comes in, he gives me the epidural. Again, like that did not bother me at all. The needle in my back like was nothing compared to the pain that I had been feeling. And you guys, it was like boom, immediate relief, which is so crazy because with Maddie, it was like press the button, press the button, press the button, increase the dose, like no relief. And this one, it was like, it works. It's like, we're chilling. So at this point, I got to the hospital about 4 and now it's about 5. And I get the epidural. The doctor who I saw in clinic is the doctor on call. She walks in and she's all, oh, I guess it wasn't false labor. She's like, I'm gonna go get ready and I'll be back. So she like steps out of the room, comes back in, she's like, okay, you're at 10 centimeters. And I'm like, what? Like I just walked in the hospital. What are you talking about? I just got my epidural. I'm at 10.
So it's almost 6 o'clock and the doctor just checked me and I'm like 10 centimeters, no cervix, and they broke my water. So everything's moving pretty fast and epidural's working and shaky, but I feel good.
She's like, let's wait until you can feel like some of that pressure again and then we'll start pushing. I'm like looking around like, what is going on? Like I didn't even know if I was in labor. Now I'm about to push this baby out. Like what? This is just crazy. I start to feel the pressure again. I'm like, okay, I feel the pressure. And she's like, okay, let's start pushing. You guys, I pushed through 3 contractions.
Okay, so take that breath in, hold it in, and then right down your bottom. Good.
That's it.
Good job, man.
That's it. Power up into
Good
it
job,
now.
good
Big
job.
and strong.
6,
Good job.
7,
All that energy right there, right
9,
there, right
10.
there.
Excellent. You're moving your baby. And again, just like that. Right in your bottom. Right here.
Pull back, curl up.
Push, baby. Push, push, push,
4,
push,
that's
push,
it.
push,
Keep
push,
going,
push,
keep going. 6,
push, push.
7, great. You're doing great.
Good job,
9, 10. Give me another push, just like that.
Good job, man.
Excellent work. Good. 2, 3, 4,
Brilliant.
6,
Keep going. Don't hold back. Don't hold back.
Good job, man.
That is her
Starting to
breathing
feel
number.
it.
Yeah.
Starting to feel it? Let's go with the cleansing breath first.
Here we go. Big push. Good. 2,
There you
3,
go.
4. Bigger, bigger, bigger. 5,
Push, baby,
6,
push, push, push,
7, 8,
push,
9,
push, push, push.
10. Blow your air out. Big breath in. Really, really
There you
big.
go. Pull back,
Big, big,
curl up.
Good job,
That's
baby.
it.
Push,
Big
push,
stroke.
push.
More, more, more,
Push,
more,
push,
more.
push, push.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Seven,
More of that, more of that.
Pushing it.
Beautiful.
Keep coming. And again,
Come on, baby.
really
It's right
big.
there, baby. It's right
Really
there.
big.
It's right there.
Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming.
Keep
2,
pushing, keep pushing.
3, 4.
Oh, it's right there, baby. The baby's right there.
8, 9, 10.
Keep going,
Give me
baby.
another nice long
Come on,
kind of
baby.
steady, gentle push, okay? Steady, gentle push.
Push, 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 push. It's right
A
there.
little bit
It's
more, a little bit more, a
almost
little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit
there. It's
more.
almost there.
Keep coming. Keep coming.
Oh, God.
Excellent. Good job. Okay, shoulders coming.
She said you can rest your
Try
foot down.
pushing
Give
and
us
then
a
I'll
nice, easy push. Okay. And just a nice, easy push. Just getting the shoulders out. Nice and easy.
Everything's fine,
A little bit
baby.
more.
Everything's fine.
Good. A little bit more. Shoulders are out. Now a nice long steady push, okay?
Come on, baby. It's right there.
Okay, here comes your baby.
Grab your baby.
Hello.
3 contractions. That baby is out. 3 contractions, the baby is out. And she's a girl.
He, she, I have no idea.
What is it?
Should we look, Dad?
It's a girl.
Oh, it is. I got beautiful job.
And is it a girl, boy?
It's
Yeah, Dad told
Dad was
us.
right. It's a girl.
Oh, sweet baby.
So I deliver Luca at 6:18 p.m. From the time that Luca is delivered and my placenta is delivered and they do all the baby checking, the mom checking, everything, cleanup, the doctor is out of the room in 12 minutes. Like from the time Luca is born until the doctor leaves the room, it is 6:30 p.m. All of that anxiety about, well, Maddie's delivery was so smooth, is this one gonna be smooth? Like it was even smoother, just so smooth. It was like, walk into the hospital, had a baby, here she is. And she was perfect. She was a full pound and an ounce bigger than Maddie. She was 6 pounds, 14 ounces, and she was 20 inches in length. My mom, my sister, and Cedric were all in the room. We also had a birth photographer, and then obviously the nurse and the doctor, who wasn't my doctor, but I loved the doctor that delivered Luca. She was very calm, but also just like was good at explaining everything that was going on. And Maddie came that evening. It was exactly what I had hoped for. Both baby and I were healthy, and we had so many loved ones around, both when she was delivered and right after. It was everything that I prayed for. Like I said, she was a girl, which is what I thought. Cedric thought that she was a boy, so I knew. I didn't know, but I knew in my heart. I had like a lot of anxiety leading up to delivery just because I thought I had such a great experience with Maddie, and I did. But Luca, y'all, it was a really amazing labor and delivery experience. Postpartum was also very smooth. So I just feel incredibly blessed to have 2 beautiful, healthy baby girls, and to have had such an incredible birth experience with the both of them. And Cedric's already talking about number 3, and I'm like, okay, Luca is 3 months old, chill. So that is the birth story of Luca Ryan Thompson. She just has this like super sweet presence about her. Like I know I call Maddie my sweet girl, but like Luca's like really, really sweet. Like it's just something about her that's really sweet. She's super calm, which Maddie was not and is not. She just like seems like she's with it, you know? Like have you ever met those babies who are just like, they get it, they're with it? Luca's with it. I'm super excited to watch her grow and to be in this season with 2 little ones, 2 and under. It's a really exciting time in our household, and I can't wait to share more with you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and till next time.